It's happening now. September 25th, 2025 is not just a moon shift. It's the night everything inside you starts to change. Most people will look up, see the moon shining and think nothing is different. That's the mistake. The truth is, the moon never moves without moving you. Some of you are already feeling it. Waking at strange hours, sudden mood swings, tears rising for no reason. These are not random. These are signs the moon is rewriting your path. And here's the part no one tells you. The shift didn't end with sunrise. It's still moving through you right now. From this point on, nothing inside you works the way it used to. So stay with me. But first, like this video, subscribe to the channel and type 111 in the comments. Tonight marks a rare turning point in the rhythm of the cosmos. The waxing crescent rises, carrying the restless spark of beginnings. But in Scorpio, its tone is different. Deeper, sharper, impossible to ignore. This is not a light that comforts. It is a light that reveals what has been hidden and demands that truth be faced. This phase is about growth, but Scorpio makes that growth more intense. It's not only about moving ahead, it's about letting go of what has held you back and stepping into something stronger. Decisions made now have lasting impact, shaping the road ahead in powerful ways. The star Alpharat shines with a message of freedom, adding power to this moment. It signals release from old limits and opens paths that once felt blocked. Tonight is more than a step in time. It's a doorway into a new rhythm, one that clears away the past and sets the stage for transformation. September 25th, under the waxing crescent in Scorpio, carries more than passing movement in the stars. It signals a turning point where karmic agreements are stirred and soul contracts reach their moment of completion. What has lingered in shadow now seeks resolution, closing doors that were never meant to remain open forever. This is the kind of passage that marks spiritual initiation. Not through sudden chaos, but through a steady pull toward truth. When karmic endings arrive, they do not erase what was. They honor what has been carried, then redirect energy toward what must unfold next. For many, this means walking away from old ties, habits, or bonds that have served their purpose, but cannot belong in the road ahead. The significance is not random. Each soul present in this moment chose to be here to meet this alignment and to walk through it awake. The message was already written into the fabric of your mission long before this date arrived. That is why hearing these words matters. It is a reminder, not an accident. Spiritually, the waxing crescent opens momentum, and Scorpio ensures that momentum transforms. The combination does not pass quietly. It initiates, it presses, it awakens. Collectively, it invites a shift toward higher timelines, pulling many into chapters where clarity and purpose lead. Think of this as a passageway where the old agreements close and new contracts take their place. Not punishment, but preparation for the life you were always meant to step into. For those ready to embrace it, the gateway offers renewal and alignment with the mission already written into the soul. In these hours, many are caught in currents that cannot be explained by ordinary life. Emotions surge without warning. Old doubts surface and waves of intensity move through the mind, as if a tide is reshaping the inner landscape. This is not chaos. It is a clearing. The recent moon shift has opened a gateway where what was hidden begins to rise, asking to be seen and released. Tears may come easily, even in moments that seem unrelated to sadness. The body releases through water what the spirit has carried for too long. This is not weakness but purification, a sign that the heart is making space for something higher. Flashes of memory may return, moments long past suddenly arriving with sharp clarity. These are fragments seeking closure not to bind you, but to free you. When such echoes appear, they bring an invitation to acknowledge the lesson and let it move on. Restlessness at night is another sign, not a disturbance to fear, but the soul stretching against limits, adjusting to a rhythm that no longer belongs to the old way of being. It is the spirit rehearsing its expansion while the body catches up. For many, heightened sensitivity is also present. Music, light, or even simple words can strike more deeply than usual. This is the nervous system tuning itself to finer frequencies, preparing the spirit to anchor new awareness into daily life. What once passed by unnoticed now carries weight because perception itself is expanding. These waves of release are not endured alone. Across the collective, thousands are walking through the same process, each releasing layers that once kept their mission muted. What rises now is not meant to overwhelm but to awaken. Every tear, every restless night, every sudden surge of emotion points to a larger truth. You are evolving. The human story within you is being rewoven to hold more clarity, more light, more strength. What feels heavy in these hours is proof of a deeper initiation, the kind that transforms not only the individual but the collective. This purging is not the end. It is preparation for the next unfolding. What you carry forward from here will be lighter, clearer, and aligned with the mission you came to fulfill. This moon shift is pulling hidden layers to the surface, asking for honesty in places that have long been kept silent. Shadows rise not to punish but to be acknowledged, and in their rising they bring a mirror of truth. September 25th is not simply another date on the calendar. It marks the turning of a karmic lock, releasing what no longer has a place in the path ahead. Fears that return in these hours are not mistakes. They are echoes of agreements once made, contracts carried from lifetimes where growth demanded struggle. Now, under this cosmic current, those agreements dissolve. What once bound the spirit to repeating pain transforms into raw material for strength. This is alchemy in motion, the heavy transmuted into clarity. The Scorpio influence makes this work deep and undeniable. It stirs the unseen, drawing out the hidden motives, the unspoken doubts, the long-buried anger. Yet Scorpio also grants the courage to face what arises without turning away. September 25th opens that gate, and those who step through with awareness will discover freedom on the other side. Shadow work has been described in countless traditions as a meeting with the underworld of the self. It is the place where truth has been locked away, waiting for courage to open the door. The process is never comfortable, but it is always liberating. As inner weight rises, it carries with it the opportunity for release. Each recognition loosens the hold of karma, breaking ties that once dictated direction. Tears, silence, or sudden clarity may all mark the passage through this stage. These are not breakdowns, they are breakthroughs, the body and spirit aligning with higher purpose. The moon shift of September 25th demands honesty, but it also rewards it, offering a timeline where truth is no longer hidden, but lived. What emerges from this process is not perfection, but integration, the self no longer split between light and shadow, but whole, resilient, and present. To walk through shadow is to claim power once left behind, to carry forward not fear but wisdom. This is the gift hidden inside the darkness, freedom from the weight of karmic repetition and the birth of a clearer, truer path. Rising currents are reshaping the inner world, calling each soul into a higher rhythm that cannot be ignored. What once moved slowly now accelerates not in chaos but in purpose, drawing the spirit toward its rightful path. September 25th set this motion into place, and from that point forward, the transformation begins to unfold with intensity. The waxing crescent in Scorpio does not whisper. It demands attention, pushing the collective into layers of truth that were once avoided. Old identities lose their weight, and what once defined a person no longer holds power. This is not an ending. It is a doorway into a new state of being. Energy refinizes itself during these hours, sharpening perception and expanding awareness. What was once background noise becomes revelation. What was once ignored now carries meaning. This is vibrational realignment, the weaving of spirit and matter into a clearer harmony. The ancients spoke of such moments as thresholds, points where the soul steps closer to its divine purpose. Each activation of this kind prepares the body, the mind, and the spirit to hold more light, more clarity, more wisdom. It is not an abstract idea. It is a lived transformation. Relationships, choices, even daily routines start to bend toward the new resonance. No matter how firmly the old tried to hold on, Scorpio's influence sharpens this awakening further. Truth can no longer be hidden, and illusions collapse in the presence of its intensity. What rises instead is courage. The courage to speak, to stand, to embody what has been waiting within all along. September 25th acts as the ignition point. But the journey it begins stretches far ahead, carrying momentum that will shape the months to come. Spiritual awakening often begins in silence but leads to undeniable change. The body vibrates differently, the mind turns toward deeper reflection, and the spirit recognizes connections that were invisible before. This is not imagination, it is expansion. The heart beats with a wider rhythm, attuned not only to personal truth but to the collective rising alongside it. Every awakening ripples outward. What transforms within a single person becomes part of the wider shift, inspiring others to recognize their own resonance. In this way, the personal becomes collective and the collective becomes universal. This is the promise of the current moment, an awakening that is both personal and shared, ignited by September 25th and carried by the Scorpio crescent into the unseen future. What begins now cannot be undone. It can only grow, strengthen, and reveal the greater mission waiting ahead. Collective awakening rarely announces itself with clarity. At first, it rises quietly through countless individual lives, then suddenly becomes undeniable, like an unseen tide pulling in one direction. In these days, a deeper movement is unfolding, one that stretches beyond personal stories and threads itself into the shared fabric of existence. The energy sparked by recent shifts has opened a doorway not only for individual growth, but for a broader transformation that touches all of us at once. September 25th has already marked itself as a turning point, not simply through astrology, but through the way it has rearranged the invisible field surrounding human consciousness. What once felt like isolated awakenings are now connecting, weaving together like lights across a vast expanse. The private initiations of countless souls are beginning to interlace, creating a force far larger than any single person. This is how collective ascension takes root, not through sudden miracles from above, but through the rising of countless hearts aligning in rhythm. The journey of one soul awakening always influences more than its own path. Every truth faced, every illusion dissolved, and every step into clarity ripples outward. These ripples meet, merge, and magnify until they no longer belong to one but to all. It is through this merging that a revolution of consciousness takes shape, slowly at first, then swiftly as the weight of resistance gives way to the flow of change. For generations, wisdom traditions spoke of such moments as gateways, times when the world itself rises to meet the courage of those within it. We are living through such a threshold. Now the Scorpio crescent's influence sharpens truth, stripping away masks not only within individuals, but also within collective structures. What has been concealed finds exposure, and what has been stagnant begins to move. It is as though the hidden chambers of collective memory are being unlocked, releasing both the shadows and the light needed for renewal. In this expansion, personal struggles take on new meaning. The sadness that has lingered in private corners, the anxiety about paths not yet clear, even the flashes of inspiration that arrive without reason, all a part of a wider story unfolding. These moments are not separate fragments, but threads of a greater weave. And as more people recognize the weight of their own awakening, the collective tapestry becomes richer, stronger, and more luminous. Planetary ascension is not a single leap, but a rising wave of consciousness that reshapes the foundations of life itself. It alters the way communities gather, the way justice is understood, the way creativity flows into the world. Change begins within, but its destination is shared. A healed heart does not remain silent. It inspires another to open and another until a chain of awakening stretches further than eyes can see. The present energy calls for trust in this process. Even when the scope of change seems overwhelming, one does not need to see the entire map to know the direction is forward. This is how revolution unfolds, through countless small shifts that accumulate into momentum, carrying all into new ground. Every act of courage contributes. Every moment of honesty strengthens the grid of awakening that surrounds us. Now, in the same way a single candle can ignite thousands, so too does one awakened soul illuminate countless others. And as these lights multiply, the collective field of consciousness transforms. Old frameworks lose their hold not by force but by becoming irrelevant in the presence of greater truth. What once dictated the rhythm of human life can no longer sustain itself when so many choose differently. Planetary ascension, then, is not distant prophecy, but living reality. The energy of 25th September has served as a spark, a reminder that the path forward is no longer hidden in shadows. Each step taken in clarity now strengthens the bridge between personal awakening and collective revolution. The more courage that is embodied individually, the faster the whole field shifts. This is the work of our time, to recognize that awakening is not private, nor is it meant to be contained. It is the pulse of evolution moving through us, calling not only for personal transformation, but for a reimagining of the shared story. And in answering this call, we participate in something far larger than ourselves. The rising of consciousness that reshapes the destiny of the world we live in. Momentum builds quietly. Then all at once, what began as scattered awakenings has reached the stage where the collective pulse grows impossible to ignore. Conversations that were once hidden in small circles are now echoing across the wider field. Proof that a revolution of consciousness has already begun to take shape. This isn't a passing phase. It's the start of a new architecture of being. Many have spoken of planetary ascension as though it would descend from above in a single flash of light. In truth, it emerges through the courage of those who choose to embody their own awakening. The shift is not imposed. It is lived. And as more souls step into their clarity, the collective timeline adjusts. It bends toward unity, toward truth, toward remembrance of what it means to live in resonance with higher purpose. 25th September opened a channel that carries this revolution into sharper focus. What once seemed scattered and isolated has begun to organize itself into a living grid of awareness. Imagine countless sparks across the globe, suddenly aware of one another, each recognizing they are not alone. This web of light grows stronger with every act of honesty, every decision aligned with integrity, every refusal to shrink back into old illusions. The old frameworks built on fear are not crumbling in silence. They are being replaced by living demonstrations of courage, communities rising, voices refusing to be silenced, individuals daring to step into missions that once terrified them. This is planetary ascension in action, the slow, steady replacement of fear-based consciousness with a higher rhythm anchored in truth. For some, the process may feel disorienting. As the collective rises, the familiar markers of identity begin to shift. What once seemed stable no longer provides direction. Yet this uncertainty is not emptiness. It is fertile ground, the soil from which a new consciousness grows. When the old scaffolding disappears, it is not the end, but the invitation to build with materials aligned to the heart. The magnitude of this awakening cannot be measured only in personal breakthroughs. Its real power is revealed in the way these breakthroughs merge into a collective tide. Every soul that steps into truth expands the possibilities for countless others. The chain reaction is unstoppable because consciousness once awakened does not retreat. It continues to expand, to push outward, to illuminate spaces where shadows once thrived. It is no accident that this transformation is happening now. Prophecies across traditions pointed to an era where truth would pierce through illusion, where hidden layers would surface and where humanity would rise into a greater remembrance. That era is no longer approaching, it is here. September 25th was not an isolated moment. It was a marker, a signpost pointing toward the next phase of collective ascension. The revolution of spirit is not limited to meditation halls or private rituals. It spills into daily life. It shapes conversations, choices, relationships, and even the way societies organize themselves. Awakening is not meant to remain hidden behind closed doors. It demands expression, and in that expression, it becomes contagious. Others see, others rise, and the chain reaction continues. This is how collective timelines are rewritten. Not through external events alone, but through the courage of individuals choosing to live as awakened beings. Each time truth is spoken, each time integrity outweighs fear, the future shifts. New possibilities anchor themselves into the shared field, and what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. Planetary ascension is not a distant horizon to be longed for. It is a living revolution unfolding in this very moment. The only question is how actively each soul will participate. The invitation is clear: to live with awareness, to choose courage over fear, to embody the consciousness that is already awakening within. The days ahead will continue to stretch and challenge, not as punishment but as preparation. This expansion requires space, and making that space often means shedding what no longer serves. As this happens, it is important to remember no one walks this path in isolation. What you carry, others carry alongside you. What you release, others release as well. The collective moves together, even when the process feels deeply personal. This is the power of the moment we stand in. September 25th ignited a fire that will not go out, a collective awakening that reshapes not only the individual heart, but the destiny of our shared world. Every act of courage matters. Every step into truth amplifies the ascension of the whole. The revolution of consciousness has already begun, and those who recognize it are not spectators. They are the ones carrying it forward. The great teachings have always whispered that transformation becomes lasting when woven into daily living. Moments of awakening mean little unless they root themselves in action, in rhythm, in choice. The old masters spoke in symbols, not to confuse, but to show that truth cannot be memorized. It must be lived. When the Vedic seers turned their gaze to the cosmos, they did not stop at observation. They built practices that aligned the human body with the stars. The Hermetic tradition too taught that the micro reflects the macro, that each gesture of harmony within echoes across the larger field. As the tides of awakening move through you, every act becomes more than personal. It becomes part of a living current. Pour water with intention, and it nourishes more than thirst. Speak with honesty, and it strengthens the invisible bridge between hearts. Silence no longer remains absence. It becomes a container where wisdom gathers. Indigenous elders knew this well, treating each action as ceremony, no matter how simple. Walking, eating, singing, these were never small things, but anchors that kept spirit and earth braided together. The time that opened on the 25th of September asks for the same devotion. Not grand declarations, but steady rituals of clarity. A candle lit at dawn is no trivial gesture. It is a mark of willingness to meet the day in full presence. A word spoken to honor ancestors becomes a reminder that the unseen continues to guide. A song offered into the wind is not wasted. It threads human voice into the fabric of creation. In Hermetic thought, the law of correspondence teaches that the outer mirrors the inner. To cleanse your space is to cleanse your path. To move your body with care is to attune the wider field around you. Nothing exists in isolation. The practice of transformation is not escape from the world. It is deeper participation in it. Every choice becomes alchemy. The challenge now is consistency. Great breakthroughs rarely vanish because of opposition, but because they were never grounded into the rhythm of life. To make awakening endure, weave it into the ordinary. Set time to honor the sunrise. Speak gratitude before meals. Let music guide movement when words fall short. These acts are not decoration. They are the spine of the new life calling you forward. Transformation is not a single threshold crossed once. It is a river that keeps carving its path, asking those who walk near its banks to listen. The ancients never imagined awakening as something sudden or final. They spoke of it as seasons turning, each one demanding a different kind of presence. To honor this river, you must learn to give it both attention and offering. Attention keeps the flow from slipping into neglect. Offering turns it into exchange, a partnership between human and the unseen intelligence moving through existence. In the Vedic traditions, sound was the bridge between spirit and matter. To chant even a single syllable was to retune the inner instrument, calling order out of disorder. You do not need long recitations. A whispered mantra repeated with focus can restore harmony where fragmentation once ruled. The Hermetic teachings remind us that rhythm governs all things. Cycles of day and night, breath and silence rising and falling. To align yourself with rhythm is to dissolve resistance against the tides. When you move with time instead of against it, the current strengthens. Indigenous wisdom carried the truth that no transformation is complete until it is shared. The healing of one is meant to touch the many. This is why every gathering, every circle was not only for the individual, but for the community. In this same way, your private moments of awakening are not meant to stay private forever. They ripple outward in unseen threads. The guidance for these days is clear. Make practice a way of living. Let the candle, the chant, the walk, the gratitude, the song, the circle, all of them become the soil where insight roots itself. Without such rooting, even the brightest revelation fades like mist at sunrise. This is how awakening matures. Not by seeking perfection, but by choosing devotion. Not by waiting for signs, but by becoming one. The shift is here. Your task is to give it continuity, to make it breathe through action and to let it echo far beyond the boundaries of your own life. Tonight carries a rare intensity, like a hidden bell echoing through the unseen layers of life. The air itself seems to hold a different weight, a reminder that change does not wait for permission. It calls us forward whether we are ready or not. With the moon shift peaking on the 25th of September, the collective atmosphere has opened a doorway where endings and beginnings breathe side by side. Each heart is standing at a threshold now, urged to release the heaviness of what no longer belongs and step into an unfamiliar yet undeniable expansion. This is not random, nor is it by chance. Those who are hearing these words were always meant to. Soul contracts move silently through the background, guiding people into moments that feel almost too perfect to ignore. What you are experiencing now is the deeper mission you agreed to before stepping into this life, a call to rise into clarity, to embody more of the truth already written within. Blessings are not always gentle. They can come as waves that stretch us into growth. Yet within that stretch lies the greatest reward, recognition that personal shifts ripple outward, lighting the path for countless others. The courage to release, the strength to transform, and the openness to receive are what carry us through nights like these. Carry this blessing into your own journey. Speak into the comments the phrase, "I step through the new doorway." Let those words anchor your commitment, and share this message with another soul moving through awakening. They too are part of this unfolding. Together we honor the passage of this rare night and strengthen the rising tide of collective transformation.